My boyfriend told me he was just crashing at his ex's apartment while house hunting, but after 2 years of never being able to visit him there, meet any of his friends, or even see where he slept, I finally uncovered the crushing truth. I'd been nothing but his secret side chick all along. Tim and I have been in a relationship for 2 years now, both of us living abroad in Europe. Tim is a very private person, which I thought explained some of the oddness initially. To truly understand, I need to start from the beginning. We met at an event for native English speakers, both having been in Europe for a year. We connected instantly. A few days later, we joined a pub crawl with others from the event and ended up together. Soon after, we decided to meet again. When we were trying to decide whose place to go to, he insisted on mine, promising to explain why later. For the record, my living situation wasn't ideal for having guests, especially men, and he knew this. He arrived and revealed he was still living with his ex-girlfriend of about 3 months. He had his own room, but had prepaid 6 months' rent to help her out financially, so he was staying there. Yes, I know, it sounds strange, but I tried not to judge. He assured me they were completely over, and I was just looking for a casual connection at that point, so I went with it. A few weeks passed and we decided to date exclusively. He said he was just living with his ex, who we'll call Stephanie, for another 3 months before finding his own place. It was an unusual arrangement, but I trusted him, believing he'd move out soon. He often complained about the discomfort of living with her and mentioned they broke up because he caught her cheating with her ex at a party, so I wasn't concerned about them reconciling. While not entirely comfortable, the situation felt manageable. Months went by, and Tim didn't move. He then claimed he had his own small apartment in the same building, saying it was better because he wouldn't need to buy furniture and the rent was cheap. As foreigners, buying a lot of furniture you'll just sell later is a hassle. He eventually started promising to bring me over to show me their separate living arrangements, but that never happened. Every time I asked him to discuss it with her, he'd say she'd get upset and so on. Apparently, she knew he had a girlfriend, but wasn't happy about it and wanted him back. After a year, he finally moved out, not into his own place, but into a spare room at a friend's house. I had been to this friend's place once before, and it was the only time I'd ever met one of his non-mutual friends, which struck me as suspicious. I couldn't assist with the move despite trying, so I never actually saw him relocate his belongings. This was supposed to be a temporary solution until he found his own apartment. Due to various factors, his company being acquired, leading to job insecurity, and his extreme pickiness about apartments, he still hasn't found his own place. It's been about 10 months since he moved in with his friend, and I haven't been there, despite asking many times. He always agrees, but then later makes excuses about not wanting to impose. Essentially, I've never seen where he actually lives. These issues, combined with never meeting his friends or Skyping with his family, formed the basis of my suspicion. But here's where things got serious. Last night, unable to sleep, I started looking through Facebook. I searched for tagged photos of Tim, knowing he's particular about what appears on his profile. Among the pictures, I found 3 from his summer visit home. In each one, an untagged girl sat next to him. In 2 photos, his arm was around her, but these were group shots, and everyone had their arms around each other. Since 2 pictures were with friends, I assumed she was just a friend from home, no big deal. However, in one picture, they were, with his sister, her husband, and their daughter, a much more intimate setting. I don't know what Stephanie looks like, and she doesn't have a Facebook profile. I couldn't find a picture of her through Google, but I had a strong feeling this girl might be her, though I couldn't pinpoint why. I did more online research and found Stephanie's grandmother's obituary. She passed away in January after Tim was supposedly out of the house for good, and they should have been broken up. Yet, in the obituary, his name was listed next to Stephanie's as a member of the family. I knew he was close to the grandmother, and that she'd left him things in her will, but still, this made me highly suspicious. If my suspicions were true, it meant he'd managed to hide this from both of us for 2 years, which is honestly quite impressive. Right now, I'm stuck. I don't want to confront him with such weak evidence until I'm certain, because he'll just have an excuse and I'll probably believe him because I want to trust him and be with him. I don't know how to get more proof that the girl in the pictures is Stephanie, or how to confirm the situation one way or another. That's what I need advice on. I won't break up with him without 100% certainty because I truly love him. But I don't know how to get that certainty. Any advice or help is appreciated, but please be constructive. Update 1. It's been a while, and the situation has evolved. I didn't want to update without knowing anything for sure. I never expected my post to get so much attention, and aside from a few negative comments, I really appreciate all the input everyone provided. I read every single comment and message. So first off, thank you all. As many suggested, I started by having a conversation with Tim, making it very clear how much the whole situation bothered me and why it was an issue for me. I tried to explain my perspective and help him understand my distress. He said he understood and apologized profusely. We both cried. He claimed he never intended to hurt me and hadn't realized how significant this issue was for me, admitting he'd been selfish. He promised everything would change, that I would meet his friends, see where he was staying, and Skype with his family. He said I was the most important person in his life here and couldn't imagine life without me. He expressed a desire to find an apartment for us to live together and to return home together permanently after I finished school. He also told me the girl in the pictures was an old family friend, and he was in the obituary because he remained close to the family who still wished I were part of it. I decided to wait and see if he would actually follow through this time, so we reconciled, and things seemed fine. What I didn't mention is that during my earlier snooping, I found the landline number for Stephanie's place and decided to call, it asking for Tim. Stephanie's dad answered and told me to call Tim's cell, as it was the landline, which wasn't very helpful. Before you freak out about the dad, the house is a duplex, with the parents having their own half and Stephanie having hers, which isn't uncommon in small villages here. A couple of days after Tim and I talked, he texted me asking if I had called. Stephanie's house asking for him. I decided not to lie and admitted it. He said she texted him, mentioning some girl with an accent had called asking for him, and he immediately suspected it was me. I explained I did it out of desperation for answers, just wanting to know what was going on, and that it was inconclusive. He became very upset, saying I had betrayed his trust and was acting crazy. He wasn't entirely wrong about that, but I explained I felt forced into such actions because I felt like I'd never get answers any other way. I apologized for invading his privacy and for bothering Stephanie and her family. After a few days, he calmed down and forgave me, but said this might delay me meeting his friends because he'd told them what happened, and they were angry that I would treat him that way. I waited a few weeks to see if anything would change, and not surprisingly, it didn't. So this past weekend, he got very drunk one night, and I was able to unlock his phone with his fingerprint while he was sleeping. I found texts from Stephanie, from the day before, discussing what they should make for dinner that night, even though he told me he was out of town for work. I found many heart emojis, I love you messages, and even him using the same pet names for her as he does for me. He told her he was going out of town that weekend for work, and how much he'd miss her. I scrolled through the past few weeks of messages between them and saw he had sent her quite a few of the same pictures he had sent me. He had invited her to have a glass of wine with his friend and his friend's girlfriend, picked her up from work multiple times, and they had many conversations about who was making dinner and what they should eat. I went back and checked dates. When I knew he had stayed over with me, and he had always told her he was crashing at a friend's place or out of town for work, or something similar. I also found a group text message titled Family that included Tim, his sister, his mom, and Stephanie. I looked at pictures Stephanie had sent him and could clearly see it was her in the photos I had found on Facebook. So, you all were right. For the last 2 years, he's been living with her and seeing me on the side, all while telling me how much he loves and admires me, and how we're going to have a future together. I've been deceived and exploited, and I feel like a complete idiot because of it. I haven't spoken to him yet, but when he comes over later this week, I plan to tell him I know everything. I also plan to tell him he's a complete jerk. In my ideal scenario, he'd explain why he did this and what on earth he was thinking, but I'm pretty sure those are things I'll never know or understand. Obviously, I will break up with him. I also plan to contact Stephanie with a letter, telling my side of the story. I'll include dates I know he spent the night with me so she can cross-reference them with dates he didn't come home. I also plan to include a USB stick with pictures of Tim and me from the last 2 years, and screenshots of some of our conversations from the last couple of months. I can't make her believe me, but I want to at least do my best for her. I feel like I owe it to her as a fellow human being to let her know what kind of man she's been with for the last 4 years. I am open to any advice on my plan and how to move forward from this. I won't lie, I feel so lost and helpless right now. By breaking up with Tim, I'm losing a huge part of my life in this country, and I'm definitely going to feel this emptiness for a while. So, any help is appreciated. Thank you all so much for listening, and I apologize for the lengthy post. I got carried away. Update 2. Again, I'd like to begin this post by thanking everyone who offered constructive and helpful advice. I read every comment, reply, and private message. I took your advice and didn't try to have another conversation with Tim. I realized that since he had so successfully manipulated me for 2 years, having one last discussion with him was bound to make me doubt my findings, and perhaps my sanity. I wrote Stephanie a 3-page letter detailing the relationship Tim and I had over the past 2 years, making it clear it was serious, not just a fling. I mentioned dates and events that most people wouldn't have known about and included the elaborate lies and backstories he had told me. I included a list of dates from the last 2 months that he spent the night with me, and encouraged her to cross-check them with nights he wasn't at home. I printed out a few photos of us as quick visual proof, and included the rest of the photos on a USB stick in the letter. The stick also contained screenshots of any particularly incriminating conversations we'd had over the last few months. I scanned postcards he had sent me from various vacations, and included those as well for good measure. For safety, I also included a copy of the letter in case the hard copy mysteriously disappeared. I gave her my email address and phone number and asked her to contact me if she wished. On Wednesday night, I had someone drive me to where she lives. If Tim was there, I would just confirm he actually lived there, and we'd leave. If he wasn't there, I'd ring the doorbell and hand her the letter personally. We drove the 45 kilometers, and Tim was sitting in the living room on his laptop. It was obvious he lived there. She was nowhere to be seen. His and her names were on the mailbox. I called to see if he'd pick up, but he ignored the call. We headed back home. On Thursday morning, I mailed the letter. I ensured it was registered post, so she would have to show her ID and sign for it to receive it. On Friday, the letter arrived. She wasn't home, so she received a notification to pick it up at the post office. On Saturday morning, she picked it up, and I received an email receipt with her signature. Throughout all of this, I conversed normally with Tim and made excuses as to why he couldn't come over during the week, so as not to tip him off. He stopped talking to me about 20 minutes after she picked up the letter on Saturday morning, and I haven't heard from him since. He has, however, unfriended me and my family on Facebook. I have not heard from Stephanie either, so now it's truly over. I hope with all my heart that he wasn't able to lie and manipulate his way out of the situation with her, but I will probably never know. I do not expect to hear from him again. I feel very lonely, taken advantage of, and beaten down. I am going to do my best to try to come out of this situation without trust issues and without becoming cynical and jaded. I am seeking therapy to make sure I don't slip into depression. For now, I need to find ways to distract myself and fill up any free time. Thanks again for all your help. This really sucks, but I'll get through it and hopefully be a stronger person because of it. Quick edit. I forgot to mention that I'm going to get tested on Tuesday to be safe. Obviously, if anything comes from that, I'll do my best to notify both of them. Story 2. Mac. My married coworker, Mac, who has kids, and I became friendly because we live in the same neighborhood. But then he told me my hot librarian look was a problem for him and implied I was flirting. I started a new job this summer, around the same time as another coworker, Mac. Our office often requires us to move between different areas to complete tasks, leading to frequent brief social interactions as our paths cross. Mac and I began gravitating toward each other in these moments. I assumed it was because we're some of the only employees at the same stage of life, married with kids the same age, similar lifestyles. We even found out we live in the same neighborhood, just a few streets apart. However, Mac said something to me this morning that has me reevaluating all our past interactions and unsure how to proceed. He stated, with a slight smirk and raised eyebrow, "You have this whole sexy librarian thing going on today, and I think it's a problem for me." His comment came across like a sexual advance. Now, I'm looking back at everything and wondering if I've been sending unintended signals. I make no secret of being happily married and loving my husband, but I talk to Mac more than any other coworker. I'm also generally open, friendly, and quick to smile, but that's how I am with everyone, even our clients, who often comment on my cheerful and pleasant demeanor. I'm definitely not flirting with any of them, at least not intentionally. Now I just don't know what to do. In the moment, I just laughed it off and continued to where I was going without a word. I did style my hair and makeup a bit differently today and wore my often neglected glasses, so perhaps I won't combine those elements again. I don't want Mac to think I'm interested in a secret office romance, but I'm unsure how I should act around him going forward. I'm not very good at suppressing the cheerful nature that apparently comes across as flirty. Update 1. I have an update regarding my coworker Mac, who told me my sexy librarian vibe was an issue for him. Reading your responses and all the comments was very insightful. I had been feeling as if I'd somehow brought this upon myself, but your perspectives and the commentary truly opened my eyes to the reality that this was entirely Mac's responsibility. I'm a little embarrassed to admit I was too hesitant to confront Mac directly, but I made sure to avoid his usual routes and successfully dodged him for 2 weeks straight. Last Friday, he came to my workstation and asked if everything was all right, saying, "I feel like you've been avoiding me." Well, I took a deep breath, summoned the most neutral expression I could manage, and said, "Mac, you implied that your inability to manage your impulses in the workplace was somehow my fault for looking like a sexy librarian. How exactly would you suggest I handle such inappropriate comments in the future, if not by avoiding you?" His neck and ears turned bright red, and he stammered something like, I'm sorry, sorry," then literally turned and quickly walked away. I think I was in a state of nervous shock afterward. My ears were ringing, and I felt strangely tingly, but also incredibly proud of myself. First thing Monday morning, Mac came to my workstation again and offered what seemed to be a sincere apology. He said there was no excuse for his comment, that it was out of line, and he had been an idiot, not considering the implications. He promised it would never happen again and asked if there was any way he could make it up to me. I thanked him for apologizing and said, "I don't think this is something you really make up to someone, but please truly ensure he never says anything like that again." He reiterated it would absolutely never happen again and asked if I thought I could ever forgive him. I told him that while I accept his apology, it would take time to move forward and that I didn't really know what that would look like, asking him to please give me space and time, concluding with, "It'll be what it'll be. Please don't try to force it." He said, "Of course, again, I'm so sorry," and left my workstation. I think I need some time to process Mac's apology and how I feel about him moving forward. I'm still struggling to reconcile the friend I thought I knew with the person who made that comment and now with the seemingly remorseful individual I saw today. People are complicated, but I at least feel like I can go back to taking whatever route I want to get from point A to point B, and I won't be walking on eggshells worrying about potentially running into him. I think we can exchange pleasantries and move about without issue now. Thank you so much for your response and to the commenters as well. Update 2. Again, I'd like to start this post with a thank you to everyone who responded with constructive and helpful advice. I read every comment, reply, and private message. I'm a regular reader of updates, and I thought you all might appreciate another update on my situation with Mac. I can't believe it's been over a year. Mac never said anything sexualizing or out of line to me again. We never returned to the kind of easy work friendship we had before, but things were cordial and, while not necessarily warm, they weren't chilly either. Unfortunately, something eventually came to light that likely confirms his comments were less innocent than he portrayed them in his apology. He was having an affair, and his wife is divorcing him. He's moved out of the neighborhood and no longer works here, which I'm grateful for. This new development definitely made it harder to assume he didn't know exactly what he was doing with his comments. Thanks again for opening my eyes last year and to all the commenters who helped me find my courage. I still can't believe I delivered that line with a straight face, and it still feels amazing that I did. And thanks for all the wisdom and entertainment over the years. I can't wait to keep reading more.